This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast. You already know, right? We talk with business owners. They share their wisdom, and it's short and to the point to respect people's time. And because we know transforming possibility happens really fast, also leads to lasting results. So enough of that. Let's get to it. Question number one, Kris, tell me who you are. Share with me who you are, what you do.
The people that are watching this are seeing a flickering version of me, and I apologize, but like you and I both spoke about, if you're here to look at my face, you're going to walk away with a lot less than you came with. So what's probably important to people is I'm knocking on the door of 50. I'm 48 years old. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 24, and really that started when I was 16. And over time, when success didn't come, and we have a lot of it now, but over time, and I'm talking the first 3, 6, 8, 10, even 12 years in business, I started falling in love with the idea of entrepreneurship versus what it necessarily gave me financially. And that's because it had to. Otherwise, it would have been insane for me to stay in business. And so what I do now, besides run a multi-million-dollar remodeling company, which I don't work in, my employees do that. I'm completely divorced from it, minus maybe 3 hours a month of conversations. I help entrepreneurs understand what their purpose is. I help them then utilize that inside of social media for organic growth and engagement, mainly because, and then we get more tactical with advertisements and things like that. But the reason that I do that is because I was that entrepreneur who had very little money, who didn't know who to trust, who was very afraid. I had little teeny small arms that couldn't reach my back pocket to my wallet. And I was afraid that if I invested that money and I didn't get a return on it, that it would literally end what I was doing. So I am on a mission to help entrepreneurs understand their purpose and to become profitable and scale their business to the point where they're then teaching other people what they do so that they can, like, without any better words, to infect the world with the goodness of entrepreneurship. And I've never been more on fire. And I'm really excited that you invited me here to talk to your audience. You can ask any question you want, man. I'm an open book.
Love it. I love it. To infect the world. Of course, I know that's a positive. We want a positive connotation on that right now. I love it. That's wonderful. So it's for you, it's all about service then, I guess.
It is. You know, and the reason, Brad, is for a lot of years, the person I was serving the most was me. I started in business. It was all about to make profit. I didn't, you know, again, in the remodeling business, my job wasn't to charge somebody a deck for what it was worth. My job was to understand how much they were willing to pay. And it made me out of integrity. And over time, what I started to understand was that I was cutting my own nose off to spite my face by not understanding business practices, by not understanding true business principles and ROI and all the mathematical things in the business. But ultimately, what I was doing is I was a very good person selling people that were less educated in my profession than I was, which, by the way, that's why they hired me. And then I was just as dumb as they were about how to make the process work great. And when I started to learn that I could be proud, whether I make profit or not, finishing a job, fulfilling my commitments to people, that I started to realize that I was taken care of almost sometimes in magical ways that I couldn't put together if I had to, just because I started leaning on foundational principles. And the more that I looked at all of these like silver shiny objects that were out there, the more it started reminding me that the real winning was happening because I was, you know, leaning on things like integrity and communication, and then innovating our process, never being satisfied with it. And here was my biggest one. I used to hire people at my level or definitely below. And eventually, when I started realizing that integrity and communication and innovation were really the foundation of what I believed in, I started being willing to let go of the income that I made to bring people into my organizations that were at my level and above. And once we started doing that, we became a mastermind. We became team members. We became a family. And I started caring about their families as much as I cared about my family. And that was reciprocated back to me. They were willing to follow leadership and to grow and to do things that maybe they wouldn't necessarily push themselves to do because we were on a mission then. And that's something that I really want your listeners to understand. When it becomes more, and there's nothing wrong with making profit. I believe in the capitalistic system, or otherwise I wouldn't be an entrepreneur. But when people matter more than profits, you can have both. And most people are getting that wrong in today's world.
You just dropped a lot of really important stuff, Kris. And I mean that sincerely. I was trying to refrain from the word value because it's just so often used today. But you really did. Two of the things that really stood out to me, Kris. I mean, there's a lot that stood out, but two of the real things. One is reciprocity. You mentioned reciprocity. So huge. I think there's a lot of young entrepreneurs and people in business that don't understand. Here, they know the word. The word represents something they understand intuitively what it is, but I don't know that there's a whole lot of examples for people to synthesize what reciprocity really is. And so I'm glad you brought that up. It's when you reach a point where you actually see, and you mentioned the term mastermind. I know you're involved. You take part in a large part in a great mastermind, and we can speak into that in a little bit. You actually see teams and how they work and how reciprocity is modeled. And I think that's a big challenge for not only entrepreneurs, but business today. I mean, how many businesses are toxic, right? So,
well, think about it this way, man. We live in a society today where you have less than a minute on TikTok. You have 7 seconds on a reel. You have 8 bazillion posts that you can read, and they're one-off sentences. What the world is teaching is that you should give a very little bit and expect something in return. I turned that on its head because of one of my mentors who taught me that for every 10 that I get 1 back. He's also a multi-millionaire. And what I said was, what's the mindset of somebody that only expects 10% in return? I know another mentor of mine that wrote about that a long time ago, about what we're supposed to give back. And I started putting 2 and 2 together. And what started really happening, Brad, is that I started giving. I just started sharing with people the good news of business, of my personal life, of the mistakes that I made, whatever, and expecting nothing in return from the person that I gave it to. And in the end, what I found was, by being the kind of person that was joyful in giving, joyful in serving, joyful in helping other people do things, that reciprocity, what I gave out into the world, necessarily would come back to me. And I didn't even have to worry about where it came from. Talk about taking stress off my back. Talk about not having to worry about, is the camera right? Is my hair right? Am I saying all the perfect things in this little sales pitch? I just stopped all of that. And I started connecting authentically with people. And in the process of connecting authentically, I started finding that people would tell me what their real problems were, not surface level. And once I understood what the real problem was, if I could help them, I would help them. And if I couldn't, I would pass them along to someone else. So then I had a reason to start networking like crazy, because I wanted to meet people that were like me, that believed in integrity, that believed in sharing information, that believed in making the world a better place. And now I have thousands upon thousands of people that are business owners that are highly successful. And I'm talking people that blow me out of the water, multi millions made each year, that have wisdom out the wazoo, that are also go-givers. And I realized the only people that are not succeeding simply don't understand the amount of abundance that's in the world. And once you understand that abundance is there, you're not so crazy to hold on to it. You want to share it. You want to give it away. And when it comes back to you, not only is it a surprise, but it makes you grateful. And so now I get to live a really happy life because I give, and I don't think about what I get. And it keeps me from getting bent out of shape over a lot of things that I see a lot of people get bent out of shape over. And at the end of the day, and this should be everybody listens to this, It's my life. It's the one chance that I have to have this experience. And I don't want to live another day stressing about things that have no effect when I'm no longer here.
Kris, we're barely even into it. And all I got to say is one word. Amen. Like, I don't even know how to respond to what you just said. A lot of deep value in there. Abundance, difference between abundance and scarcity. It's huge, huge. I want to come back, Doug. I said there were 2 points, 2 things that stood out to me. So there's one other thing aside from the reciprocity, and that's how humble you are. And I would be remiss if I didn't just say, Kris, I love how you're sharing from the heart and just being honest. Hey, the humility that you're expressing is so important. Successful, yes, but you just have a way about you that stands apart. I mean, I could tell from the first time we connected, like there's a humility about you that is different. Would you be willing to speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, it comes from being not so much like that. And I'm just going to tell you that even when I wasn't aware of what I think and believe humility is, I don't really think about it, to be honest with you. This is who I am. But it's kind of like that thing where, you've heard about people dropping down on their knees and saying, hey, God, can you just give me some more patience? Mm. And what they're really asking for is more peace, but they didn't say that. They asked for patience. And so a whole poop storm comes at them for a long time. A long time ago, asked God for wisdom. And I didn't realize what I would have to go through to gain some of that. And what that wisdom taught me was that I'm no better than anybody else, but it also taught me I'm no worse than anybody else. And it also taught me that just because you're better looking, just because you have more money, just because you have the girl, whatever, that doesn't make you better. And then as I started to have success, what I really realized was that I went around my life doing 99 things that produced no result, but this one thing did. And it really wasn't that difficult to do, and that actually anybody can do it. So it's not like I'm the finder of a lost secret. I'm just another person that was able to find it out. So why am I going to walk around going, oh my God, I'm the next coming? When the truth is I'm not. I'm just somebody that found out some good information. And I think probably everybody listening to this, if you found a piece of cake that tastes really good, I guess there are 2 ways to look at it. You can hoard it and eat it all yourself, but that sounds boring. Or you can go, oh my God, I went down to this shop on the side of the road that makes the best cake. It reminds me of when I was 4 years old, and you should go try it too. I just want to share it because I love seeing other people succeed. I love seeing other people happy. I love seeing other people get their dreams. And that comes back to that abundance. It's never ending. Look, we're talking on microphones and cameras and eating food and driving cars. All this stuff is here. It's of the earth. It doesn't dissipate like people think that it does. It's in abundance. And when you step into understanding that you can literally create anything that your mind conceives, you start jumping on the fact of, I wonder what tomorrow can bring. And that gratitude and that joy brings more abundance. More abundance, I believe, brings more humility, because it's not because of you that it exists. You're just getting in the way of it. And I'm grateful because, and here's the pro tip. One of the things that I'm most grateful about it keeps me from getting my ass in trouble, man, and talking outside of my comfort zone, outside of my league, making promises and messing with my integrity, because I'm the one that has to lay my head down on the bed at night. My wife sees everything that I do. My children see everything that I do. And that matters more to me now than I made $8 billion and I crushed the world and I own jets. And I mean, all that stuff's cool. But what really matters is that I'm leaving a legacy of foundational principles for other people that are not of me. So they'll consistently be able to pass that along for generations and generations and generations. And my hope, because I believe in God, my hope is that the only thing I hope for is that I'm just told, hey man, well done. You did good with what I gave you. And I'm like, cool, thanks. What's next?
Love it. I absolutely love what you're saying, Kris. I really do. Look, we all know, you and I know, everybody listening knows, those posts about jets and cars and fast cars, all that stuff, look, they capture attention, mostly of the younger crowd who doesn't actually understand principles, deep principles yet. Not always younger, not always. Sometimes it's older, but age isn't really important, but they haven't yet reached the stage, right? Or the phase of life where we say, look, none of that really matters. What really matters is the principles, like you spoke into, the integrity from which I show up and who I can be proud about my character and leaving a legacy and what my family thinks and what my friends think. And,
Yep.
the good stuff.
And don't get me wrong. I fly on private jets, and I would much rather drive up 40 feet away from the jet, walk on it, get on it, fly to where I got to, get off, do whatever I want. Yeah. But if all I can do is fly on a commercial airline stuffed in seat 29E in the back, I'll still get there, and that's okay too. So it's not what defines me. And I think that's the freedom that I have, is knowing that stuff doesn't define me. And that is something that I want to reach out to a younger crowd that has a lot of stuff. Our kids have a lot of stuff. And I want them to not forget about what created the stuff, because we're either going to dumb them down or we're going to use this evolutionary process of technology growing so that we can make things better. And I just want it to be on the side of better, because I feel like we're teeter-tottering a little bit right now.
So with you 100%. Look, you're speaking to me personally, deep down at the core, deep in my heart. Kris, I want you to know, like, when in my younger years, I was chasing significance, but not in a good not on the good side of significance, but more, it's like, I wanted all the toys and the fast cars and the people and the pretty girls and all that stuff, but it was all for the wrong reasons. So like you said, precisely what you said, I let that stuff define who I was, my identity in my younger years. Thank goodness 15 years ago or so, I made the shift and started to learn the lessons that you're teaching. So the reason why I share that is to highlight and showcase what you're saying, Kris, for anybody who's listening, for anybody that really resonated with. I encourage you to pause and really listen to what was said. And even if you just scroll back and listen again, there's some real deep value there. When you get principle based, like he's sharing, when you get deep in the integrity, when you get deep in your purpose, you really start to understand what really matters. Kris, we're going to shift to question number 2. We're already going deep. Let's get to some of these other questions.
All right, man.
What is the best thing about being in business, my friend?
Oh, man. So after we started making money and I was able to go, we can keep the doors open. And yes, I can pay for my bills. That's always beneficial. The best thing about being in business, and this is just a personal thing, right? I'm not suggesting this for everybody. When I meet that guy or that gal that has been beat up by life, that's been beat up by other coaches, that's been beat up by other programs, and they come in with doubt, and then me and my teams can love them, give them what they need, give them nourishment, and then I watch them turn on. And whether they're an employee or whether they're an entrepreneur that we're helping in our programs, doesn't matter. But I watch them start to live in their purpose. Dude, I'm telling you, it fires me up like it was the first time I started living in mine. And I live for that stuff, literally live for that stuff. So to me, that's the best part of being in business, is watching other people succeed.
Love it. I love it. You took me back right to the first moment that I had my first coach, and he just poured into me, and it completely changed the trajectory of my entire life. So I'm with you. I know what that feels like. And
dude, you just said that and I got goosebumps, man.
Yeah.
Literally.
From both sides. It's so powerful, man. And I want to pause here. You are the only person so far in nearly 100 podcasts that shared that in the way that you've shared that's the best thing about being in business. And it's so powerful. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Question number 3. This is a fun one. I know you're going to dig this one. This is my favorite question. We hear from other business owners, Kris, they're getting so much business. Yes. Today, in these times, we've already talked about abundance, right? They're getting so much business that sometimes the chaos causes some overwhelm. Would you be willing to share your thoughts on that?
The chaos creating
causes some,
overwhelm.
yeah, some overwhelm, some, some strife.
Heck, man. I mean, I believe in the principles of faith, family, fitness, and finance. I don't believe that there is ever balance, by the way. I believe there's harmony. I tried for balance.
Say it again. I'm sorry to interrupt. I say that like I swear I say it once a day. You're the first person that shared that on this podcast. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I don't believe in balance. I believe in harmony. And that's because I tried balance for so long that I'm like, I'm just too stupid. I can't figure this thing out. But when I started understanding that everything has ebbs and flows, I started paying attention to not my heart and not my head, but my gut. And my gut would tell me, and now it tells me even sometimes weeks and months in advance, like that it's coming. But I realize the chaos is starting to creep in. And this is where the principles help. Dude, I don't go to shiny objects. I go right back to the foundation of what got me where I am, which is integrity, which is telling people the truth, which is sometimes the hard part, communicating effectively with people, and being willing to change because I am the person that must, as the leader, display to others that we do the hard work even when it doesn't feel like we're supposed to. And in the process of going back to those fundamentals, all that chaos finds its own way of slipping out the door. Not always the same day, but it does start to take care of itself. And I start to focus on the 3 or 4 or 5 things that I'm actually able to do. And from there, I get a peace of mind. And from the peace of mind, I start seeing the strategy ahead of myself. So when the chaos is in front of me, all I can see is the screen. All I can see is 3 feet in front of me. That as an entrepreneur is what scares the crap out of me, because we, believe it or not, all humans like certainty. We entrepreneurs are willing to take risks that others aren't, obviously. But at the end of the day, I don't want to risk to the point where I might be homeless or my wife is looking at me going, where's dinner? So I like a certain amount of certainty too. So when I can find the peace, listen to my gut, trust what it's telling me, and then follow these principles that are my core values. Key note for everyone listening: core values. What are yours? Who are you? Why are you here? When you can do that, and you get thrown into chaos, you just go back to who you are, what you believe in, what you stand for, and you rebuild from there. And I promise you, that'll get you back on track way faster than flipping out and going 100 miles an hour trying to solve and put out every fire. My opinion, anyway.
Powerful stuff. Not patronizing. I mean, truly powerful stuff. For those of us that have had some failures, how to pick ourselves back up, whether they be financial or otherwise, you learn that very quickly. If you don't get down, like you said, to the core values and the fundamentals and the principles, then you have no foundation. So
correct.
Very powerful statements, Chris. Appreciate you sharing that. And you may not recognize it, but you're a powerful guy and you position yourself as such, but you also position yourself with great humility. I'm really impressed. And I want I want to celebrate you, and I want you to hear those words and receive it.
I appreciate you.
It really stands out. So thank you for being who you are.
Yes, sir.
Question number 4. What other successful business owners like yourself, Chris, should be on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast?
So I got 2. One is named Brandon Brittingham. He is a private client of mine. He's also just an absolute beast. And just to brag on him a little bit, because he's just awesome. He is the number 1 realtor in Maryland. He is the number 5 realtor in the nation. He's under 50 years old, owns 23 businesses, and he's one of the most humble guys that you would ever meet. His tactical ability to win is so impressive because he doesn't harm anyone, but he also makes 0 excuses for anyone. And I would love him to be on your podcast because he has a wealth of knowledge to share with people about winning. And I think people need to start being capable again of going, it's okay that I win at what I do, and being unapologetic about it. Another client of mine just turned 30 years old, and he will be a billionaire before he's 40. His name is 𝐀𝐥𝐢𝐬𝐢 Jr. He's another gentleman that I would like to be on your podcast, because he came from nothing, literal nothing. And by 30 years old, he is a multi-millionaire. And everything you and I talked about, he and I were literally on a phone call before you and I got on the podcast. And the goosebumps are all over me again, because he is a guy that leans on the principles. He is a guy that at 30 years old has tapped into them. And by being a go-giver, by being a connector, by being someone that offers massive value, abundance flows in his direction. And those are two fellas that I really would like you to talk to.
Love it. I love it. That sounds fascinating. I love how you highlighted them and showcased them. And it's fantastic. I look forward to reaching out to them. Thank you, Kris.
Yep.
Let's
You're
get
welcome.
to some business wisdom. So I know you have lots of it. What is one piece of it? Because I know you've already shared a lot, and I thank you for that. What's one piece of wisdom from your experience, your knowledge, your wisdom that you would like to share with other business owners?
So I want to go back to the core values. And the reason that I do, when I started talking to you here, I said that I've been in business 24 years. What I didn't tell you is 20 of those years were just hard. I mean, I made six figures, but I did it. It was very hard. And I was in desperation mode often, because I just didn't trust the process. But a good buddy of mine, somebody that I think you've spoken to, named 𝐿𝐿, who happened to be my coach for a while, has this book, and you can share it. It's Unbleep Your Business. And that's not what it is.
Got it.
But long and the short of it, inside of his book, he talked about core values. And I was also in the process of putting my SOPs together so we can set the business up for sale, because there are certain things that you need in your company in order to maximize what that ROI is on the sale. But I couldn't quite get the SOPs down. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. And so sitting me down to do SOPs is kind of like, do I have to write my name 100 times on the chalkboard again? But I leaned into the core values, and I started thinking about them, and I was like, what are my core values, and what are my company core values? Actually, I thought, what are my company core values? And I realized, as a small business owner, my company core values are actually my core values. So I came up with integrity, information, innovation, and income for me personally. And then I realized, actually, that's congruent to how I want to run my business. And it's actually congruent to how everybody should build a business. Those four core values, I can teach them to, and I do teach them to people, and it's amazing what it does for them. But what it did for me, Brad, is it went from me working, this is about 4 years ago, I was working 60 to 80 hours a week in a remodeling company. I now work 4 hours a month, if that. It's a multi-million-dollar company. I don't touch it. All because I was able to infuse core values to attract people that believed in those core values, which means they're similar to me. And I'm going to drop something, everybody. Alignment is always greater than assignment. And when I realized I attracted people that were aligned to my vision in life, what we do together is share pieces and parts of the pie to create a whole that allowed me to shine my genius into the world, that allowed them to shine their genius into the world, that kept us from fighting and worrying about money, because that's one of the core values is income. That's not just for me. And then the next thing you know, we started thriving. And I believe if business owners would take the time to focus on their personal core values, then truly not just give it lip service, but focus on infusing those core values into their corporation, they will find that it gets easier to lift the stones, and they have a lot more time to focus on the things that they bring to the table that are the most delicious fruits to eat.
I love that. And I love this conversation. There is few topics that I think are as powerful as what we're talking about. And what's funny is you all align. So when I say you all, I've had Mark on, I've had Thomas
Yeah,
on, and you've been on, and you've all talked about this, the power of this, but you do it in a different way. And so I do want to dive in just a little bit more, but I see
sure.
the power, and I see it emanating from you. Like, I want to edify because it is a powerful talk, but I could talk about this every day. Now the listeners might say to themselves, "Oh my goodness, again," but there's so few people in general, and business owners specifically, who take the time to actually structure the
Right.
foundational stuff like core values. What are your leadership principles? What are your core values? Doesn't matter what you label them. What conversations are you having in your daily interactions about those very things like you're sharing? It's not about the word. It's about how you're utilizing it. And I absolutely love, Kris, what you said about alignment is greater than the assignment. So I want to shift gears for a second. We're still
Sure.
going to talk about the core values, but in a different way. It's the utilization of the core values that's the power of those values. So you mentioned integrity. That was one of them. And there were three others that you mentioned.
Yep.
How often do you have conversations around those core values with your associates, employees, coworkers, stakeholders, all the people surrounding the businesses that you're in? How often do you think you have conversations around this?
This is the fifth time today that I've done it, if that gives you a clue.
It's
It's
it gives
all
me
I
a clue.
talk about. It's all
Yeah.
I talk about. And here's what's weird. People want to do it from a business point of view, which is, this is why you should go work for me. This is why I pay you money. This is no. My lead production manager today, the COO of New England Custom Remodeling, and I had a conversation about my son and his son.
Mm.
We were talking about integrity. We were talking about information, which is communication. We were talking about innovative ways to communicate with 19-year-old boys, men. We were talking about the goals that we want for them and the goals that they want, income. I talk about it a million different ways to as many people that want to hear it. And I live my core values all the time in front of everyone because it is the biggest bang for the buck. By the way, as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about it. So it's not a one-way street of a conversation that's like, this is so boring. Our mission is to serve our community and produce the best product. Everybody says that crap. I'm here to create warriors for the mission that we're on, which is to change people's lives no matter what we do. And we do them by these principles. And we can talk about our wives. We can talk about our children. We can talk about our clients. We can talk about our employees. We can talk about our business partners. We can talk about everything else, the way we post on social media. It doesn't matter. But we talk about these things all the time. You will be very hard pressed to not get me to get on a podcast, stand up on stage, which I do a lot, do my own talks and my own post on social media, that I'm not constantly talking about these foundational things. And it's a never ending wellspring because I'm constantly viewing it from a million different angles to find the nuances in it, to find just a better way to say it, just a better way to touch somebody new, just less sentences. Instead of a paragraph, maybe I can turn it into a sentence. Maybe I can turn a sentence into a phrase. Maybe I can turn a phrase into a word. And when I speak that word, it has so much impact on somebody that they will go and think about what it means to them. That's how often I do it.
I can't reach it right now, but I really wanted to. I have a microphone behind me and I just wanted to just do a mic drop. It's too far behind me, but if that was not a mic drop, I don't know what is. Well said, Kris.
Thank you, sir. It's just the truth, man.
It's so powerful, and yet so few people do it. Just pause, get with somebody who knows. Reach out to somebody, for goodness sake, who knows about fundamentals. If you don't know, if you've never been exposed to it and you don't know where to start, it's not about identifying the words. It's about the meaning behind those and how you use them.
That's beautiful, man.
So powerful. Thank you, Kris. I really appreciate that. The way you speak about fundamentals, the way you represent yourself, about principles, the way you show the humility that you do, but still as a powerful alpha male is so important in the market today. There's so many people that they work. Look, there's entrepreneurs listening. There's business people listening who don't work for themselves yet. Maybe they want to work for themselves. Maybe they don't. Maybe they want to keep working for somebody else. Great. There's a market out there for everybody, right? So we celebrate you no matter what position you're in. But I know like what you're saying resonates with me because there were so many places that I worked in that were toxic.
Yeah.
Right. Even as a freelancer, even as a contractor. I mean, I've had multiple positions, right? And I've worked in a lot of places where it's just truly toxic. And I know there's someone listening today, there's probably more than one who are feeling that, they're hearing that, and they're saying, well, what do I do? Then what do I do? Because I don't run the company. So what do I do? What statement, what advice or what wisdom, Kris, would you share with them? We're going to get you fired up here, man.
You are asking good questions. Good questions. Here's what you do. Be the change you want to see in your environment. Quit waiting on someone else to bring it to you. Stand up and be a leader. And don't do it because I'm waiting on someone else to pay me money. No, do it because it's the right thing to do. Be who you are. And if you don't know who you are, get with somebody that can help you figure out who you are so that you can be that person all the time. Because until you figure out how to be congruent with you all the time, you're going to be an unhappy human being. And unhappy human beings attract other unhappy human beings, which is probably why you're in that job to begin with, because you were attracted to that jerk that's making you feel toxic. And I don't mean to pick on you, Brad, because I was in that same spot. I just finally chose to stand up regardless of what result I got for what I believed in. And yes, was it scary, but daggone it, I'm pretty damn happy now because I was willing to stand in the gap and I was willing to say to myself, I will be here when the smoke clears. And here's my tagline: I'll see you in the trenches. And what that means to me is that I will do the work. And I believe that there is a source and a power greater than us that will bless me because I stand up for who I am. I can't be anybody different than who I am and be in integrity. That's just the bottom line. So if you're in a situation where you're getting beat down, I'm not telling you to stay there, but I'm telling you to stand up and be you. And let the chips fall where they may, because other people will resonate with you being you. And it might be a hell of a journey. It certainly was for me, but you'll land on the building. The ladder will be on the building. And when you reach the top of that, you will say, damn, I'm on the right building. Because that would be my biggest regret in life, man. I'm 98 years old and I'm looking on top of the building and going, well, I'm almost out of here. And that was a shitty ride. I don't want people to feel like that. Yeah. So that's what be the leader that you want to see in your company. Stand up for something, and you might find that other people were just waiting on someone else to do it.
With you. And I heard you hold back there. You were about to lay it down hard. And I saw that in your face. And I just want to acknowledge you. I can see you're passionate about this, and I want to highlight and showcase that. This is a powerful topic. Look, as I didn't create this statement. This is an original, as far as I know, original John Maxwell statement, but everything rises and falls on leadership. And that's
yes, sir.
The core of what you just said. It really does. But it's the tactical notion of how you display that and into this. Because it's one thing to hear something, right? We hear this, but can we actually put it into practice, and how do we do that? And so sometimes it's get into yourself, right? Just dig into you, right? Go within or go without. But sometimes it's, you know what? I've already done that. I don't know how to figure this out. Go ask for help.
There's no lack of information. That's not an excuse anymore. When I first started my business, there was no such thing as the internet. When I sold my first deck, I had to go into Lowe's and buy a Black & Decker book to figure out how to build it. That was my information. Yellow pages were the things we looked for cold calling people. So there is no lack of information. There's only lack of desire and drive.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm so with you on that. I'm going to share some stories when the podcast is over. We're going to laugh. We're going to have a couple laughs. I appreciate that. Look, Kris, I know you and I could talk. I know you and I could talk business and enjoy ourselves for hours and hours. We're going to shift gears. Thank you for dropping a lot of value. And again,
Sure.
anybody listening and watching, I hope this hit you at the core, right? And you say, and you stop and you pause and you say, look, I've heard this 3 times now, or I've heard it 9 or 18 or whatever it is. And you pause. I want to encourage you. I want to lift you up. I want you to pause and listen to what Kris has shared here and the power in what he shared. Whether you got to scroll back, listen to it 2, 3, 4 times. It's about depth. It's not about, there's nothing been shared here that's superficial. I promise it will change your life if you pause and dive into what he shared. It's really powerful stuff. Kris, we work to live. I pause because sometime I'm going to get that wrong. Not live to work. So
Right.
I usually ask this question. I always ask this question on the podcast because what we do, we get some freedom, right? A lot of entrepreneurs, when I say, you know, what's the best thing about being a business? A lot of people share the freedom, you know, time freedom, financial freedom, all these things. But what do you do with it? It's the question. So to highlight that, I always ask, what's the most fun vacation you ever had? I'd love to know yours.
So for me, it was the last one that I'm on. I'm blessed with the opportunity, man, and the finances. I speak on a lot of stages, like I talked about, and I bring my wife with me. And whenever we go somewhere, we usually stay an extra 2, 3, 4 days. This last one, we were in Tampa speaking on a stage. We stayed at a resort for an extra 4 days, 3 days after it was done. We enjoyed ourselves. We recouped. But in the process of me speaking, I'm also amongst 6, 7, 8 other people that are on that stage giving out information. And that's a time for my wife and I to deep dive. And in the process of doing that this last time, we're just talking and she goes, you know, I think we should do maybe a couples retreat. And I talked to her about it and I found out if she was serious about it. And she said she was. And I said, well, that's a good thing because I just dropped a post on Facebook about it. And we ended up getting like 150 comments and everybody's like, I'm in. When are you holding this thing? So I enjoyed my last vacation. And if you ask me a month from now, I'm going to say I enjoyed my last vacation because they aren't destinations that I go to get away from anything. They are simply my life, and I've incorporated my life into vacationing and still getting business done, still hanging out with my best friend on earth and finding new ways to innovate our lives. And it just so happened this last one was in Tampa. The one before that, a month before, we were in Cabo San Lucas, and we went there for a couple days. And then we ended up with our friends, and then we ended up staying an extra week. And then we flew to Dallas and we spoke on stages and we ended up staying there for a few extra days. So it's like, I don't know, who knows? But the last one happened to be Tampa, and we just happened to create iconic couples. And that's going to be coming out in May. And we're going to be bringing people to the stage, and we're going to be sharing with people what it takes to become an iconic couple. And man, it's so cool, Brad, to have put the work in that I can put a post out on social media. And it was one of those feeler posts of just going, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. If y'all give enough interest, I'll put it together. And it's like, blah, it just blows up. And I'm like, well, there's a need in the entrepreneurial marketplace, isn't there? Now, I'm not stupid. I knew it was there too. But at the same time, it's just like, is this like, pinch myself? This is the life I get to live by sharing information and sharing real life experiences and inviting people along for the ride. Man, it's just cool. And I'm so grateful for it.
Powerful stuff. I love it. Thank you for sharing. And next
Yes,
time you
sir.
come to Tampa, you guys go Florida. Like you gotta let the guy know.
Okay, man, I will.
Kris, I appreciate you being on. There's one other question I want to ask you because there's so many things.
Sure.
Maybe we'll have you back on in the future, right? And I'd love to have you back on.
Happy to.
What kind of initiatives are you working on? So, you know, you have been humble. We haven't really talked about your business much, what you're doing and outside of the remodeling and that kind of stuff. What's something that you're working on right now in order to be able to serve your clients in the great way that you do?
Okay.
If you'd be willing to
So
share.
we have a company called 𝐋𝐞𝐚𝐝. And I have a #1 best-selling book, Becoming Iconic. It's on Amazon if anybody wants it. My name's spelled Kris, so Kris Whitehead. And we're going to use that book in a funnel that's free plus shipping and handling. We're going to get that book into people's hands. We're going to then introduce them into the iconic culture, which is everything we just spoke about. It's just funny that the questions you're asking, it's like, well, that's what I spend all my time doing, which is cool. And we're going to help entrepreneurs find harmony with their faith, their family, their fitness, and their finance so that they can start thriving, so that their impact can be known, so that we can continue to grow. And we're about 100 members strong right now. I expect that to go to several thousand people. And the goal is to continue to get on stages, to bring people to the stages, to let them hear different people speak, and to allow people to grow. And it's all going to come from this book that I wrote, people reading it, going, man, I jive with it. And if you don't, great. It was a free book. Have fun. But if you jive with it, it's an opportunity for you to get more. And I believe in this principle, man, that if I give enough value, we're going back to it. If I give enough value and you resonate with it, that you'll just keep coming my way. So sales become very easy because we just give the value up front. And so it's going to be fun because we've done all of our market research and everything. It's going to be fun to put a book out there that's already a #1 bestseller, know what it's going to do for people. And then they show up at the door and maybe they have the tattered suit on and they're just like, I'm hungry, I'm hot. And we're not sharing with them these groundbreaking things. It's just the way we share them, the sequence that we share them, and making sure that we don't fire hose them to death and help them get results along the way. And I'm excited about it because it's a team of me and about 15 people. It isn't just me. And so it'll be fun.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Huge feat. Another notch of success. Just look, they're just these things. Just notch. Another one. Congratulations. That's a great accomplishment. And I look forward to it. I know that it's going to lead to great things for you and your organizations, multiple organizations. I love it. Kris, thanks for being on. I really appreciate. I know you took a chunk out of your day to actually share and serve. That means a lot to me. I'm super grateful for that. So when somebody, thank you. When somebody listens to this and watch it, even though there's a little bit of flickering and they've watched all the way through, they've listened all the way through, and they're like, that guy really resonates with me. He was speaking to me. What's the best way for them to reach out to you? Social media, website?
Yeah. So the easiest way to find me personally would be the Kris Whitehead on Facebook. Drop in my DMs. Do not sell me anything. That'll be a way that I ignore you. But if you're interested in actually meeting
well said.
Me, if you're interested in meeting me, if you have a question, if you want to get on a 15-minute phone call, I'm happy to chat with you and to drop something or maybe help you out. I won't try to sell you into my stuff. Trust me. That's the easiest way. The other way is to come to either kriswhitehead.com or iconic.alliance.com, and you can check out more about what we do.
Love it. Thank you so much. Clear calls to action. Kris, I really appreciate you being on. Again, it's powerful stuff. This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where business owners, this is fun, making 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 figures. Look, there's a lot of talk about that on the internet, but it's not all about the figures. Sure, it's about making money, but it's not all about the figures. It's about sharing their wisdom globally and creating impact. And lately, if you've been listening, you've heard me say there's unity in community. Thanks for joining us.